cranberry, baby. Ain't nothing but cranberry juice.
Hey, never cranberry juice, right?
Cranberry juice, but hey, bro. It's Greg Company. And hey, dedicated to the homeboy Bill, boy, the Quinky and a half, boy.
Yo, what up? Welcome to the Shady and Shake Hour. This is our first episode, so you know Rome wasn't built today, but you on the mic with Shady, yours truly, and we got Shake over there. Y'all see Shake over there leaned into the camera. What's going on, Shake?
Man, I'm relaxing, man, making too much noise over there, Shady.
All right, man. So, it's been a long time coming, man. Me and you always talked about doing something together, but it haven't kicked off. So, for people that don't know us, man, actually, my start came with him. Me, Shape, and our homeboy BJ. We used to do the Caveman Live like back in the day, 2009?
Around 11. I think it was around 11 when we started, because that was the year of 14, actually, because remember, that was the year of the 49ers Superdome debacle. When Crabtree dropped that ball. I didn't catch the ball. It was something like that. But it was around that time, 2010, 2011.
All right, bro. So, before we get this thing kicked off, bro, I think for us to be talking to the people who are watching us, man, they need to know a little bit about us. You know what I'm saying? We got this big time history, man. I think we need to let people know who we are, where we come from, and how did this even get created, because they know we got names. But I guess for the sake of what we doing, we ain't gonna go by our government names on this thing. So, man, how did you get the name Shake?
Well, let me just say this here, how I got this name. The name came from you, actually. I mean, you're the only one, the inventor of this name. He claimed that I got the name Shake because I'm always shaking him on projects, which is not true. You know what I'm saying? A couple of projects, he had with certain individuals, I didn't feel like I need to be in them projects because, he had certain individuals, but he was always adamant about me being in it because of my different philosophy from other folks. He loved if I don't know, Shady loves controversy. I mean, controversy sells with Shady. I mean, I know y'all get the good side, but controversy sells. He feel like he loved to see me have a great, I don't say not necessarily say debate, but a good conversation with individuals. So every time he would bring, hey man, I need you to do this, hey man, I want you to do this, he say I would shake the spot on. That's how I got my name Shake. But let us know how you got your name Shady.
All right, well, before we get to Shady, we got to talk a little bit more about Shake. Now, me and this cat been knowing each other how many years? Since 1994. I can say since 1994. That's a long damn time. So, all right, man, the reason why I gave him that name Shake, he got that name, he always up to something. So it's like, man, if you watch The Real Hubs of Hollywood, they call Dwayne Martin Shake. And his is kind of relative to that because, when you're dealing with him, you already know it's something going on. So it's always like a hidden agenda or something. It's always something, I promise. I cannot make this up, man. So, when he tell you something, he be like, Shady. You kind of getting that look like, what up, Shake? What's going on? So he gonna come with something. So if it's a story, the story is gonna be told, but it's told to the point of it becoming a movie. So, if any of the homeboys, Hippie, any of the people that went to BT Dub with us, the close homies B, Tricky, Hippie McGee, they can tell you, man, it's always something with this cat, man. Am I wrong? See, he's shaking his head. He's shaking his head.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth.
See, so you see
here. Trying to say I'm always plotting? That what you trying to say?
Man, you always plotting or implodulating or whatever word you want to use, modulating. You always up to something, son. You always up to something. That's why you call you Shake.
The truth is, I'm always the security. When we used to hang out, I'm always the security. Because y'all guys never ever paid attention to anything. I mean, stuff be going on. Y'all just in your la world, cracking jokes, and y'all don't see nothing going on. And I'm always, and then I tell y'all about it, I'm just making this stuff up. These are the facts I'm telling you right now. These are pure DUEZ certified facts.
All right, so man, we gonna give him expound more on that, but he did ask a question. I'm gonna go ahead and ask for everybody that's watching, that's tuning in to us. How did I get the name Shady? Of course, the name came from yours truly, Shake. He gave me the name Shady because I'm the messiest person in the clique. I can't lie about that. I am a messy person, but I'm not messy in terms of people in the public. I'm messy within my friends. So if it's stuff that happens between us, you know, I always do some messy stuff. Like, you want me to tell them about the club? About Congress? If you don't want me telling about that, that's a prime example.
Yeah,
that's
right,
good.
Right.
Do you want to tell the story or you want me to tell it?
Yeah, I mean, the club back in the day, even when we went to Miami with the, you know, split of the pants situation, even at a party with, back that day, and we got numerous reasons why he's called Shady. You know, he has a new name. I ain't gonna say his new name. You know, he gets in his feelings about his new name.
Hey, boy, we talked about that off camera, boy. You better stop that, boy. You better stop that, son.
But it's all good, though. It's all good. It's all good. So, you know.
Yeah.
What's going on, man? What's on your agenda? What's on your mind? I know you want to, you know, we got to discuss. I know we got to discuss something that's, you know, we've been talking about it.
All right, man. So, you know, just for those that are watching, man, like I say, man, this dude, man, one of my best friends, he like a brother to me. You know, I don't even want to say one of my best friends. He more like family. He like blood to me. Through all the trials, tribulations we went through in life, like this is one of the people that's been there, you know, through it all. So, you know, I got to make sure I show him love. And I'm honored to actually be doing this podcast and radio show with him. But yeah, for those that are watching, man, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. And like I said, we off script. It ain't scripted. You know, we just kind of talk about what we going to talk about and we're going to go ahead and get it. So, man, we're going to start talking about gender identification. So that's our first subject of discussion, Shay. So without saying any names, for those that are watching and listening, okay, this is a really good question. Okay, if you have a male that identifies as a female and a female that identifies as a male and they get in a relationship, is it a heterosexual relationship? So that's my question. You know, what you think about that, Shay?
It's kind of different for me, being that I am a pastor. It's kind of unique in a sense because I never heard of it put that way, so to speak, or so to say. I don't know. It's kind of hard because you have a male whom I'm assuming is transitioning to a female, and a female transitioning to a male, switching roles. I'm assuming that it sounds heterosexual from the gender standpoint, but I think the roles are just switched, which makes it kind of odd to me. You know, I don't. That's kind of a unique question because the identity from start has been, you know, shown and analyzed, but the transition makes it a bit, you know, mind-boggling to me. You know, I'm assuming it sounds like it's still, you know, a heterosexual because you still got a male and a female. You know, some people may not agree with me on that. It sounds to me, some people may see it differently. It's kind of odd to me. You know, that's kind of different. You know, that's a new one on me. You know, so only thing I found very peculiar is two individuals switching, I guess, identities that they want to prefer to be identified as.
Now, for those that are listening and watching, like I said, we're not here to try to expose or offend anyone. We just basically giving our opinion and asking questions, serious questions for discussion. You know, we want answers to these questions. Like, what do y'all think? I mean, I consider them to be heterosexual as well. I mean, even though you may be LGBTQ, you are a male, you're identifying as a female, and you have a female that's identifying as a male, and they're in a relationship. They're dealing with each other. So is that a heterosexual relationship? And the reason why we're asking it, because it's almost confusing. You know, we want to understand, and there's other elements that's been added to that. And, you know, like I said, Shake is speaking on it from a religious standpoint. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I'm just really speaking to it logically, you know, just really trying to, you know, figure out. So for understanding, not to be disrespectful and not to offend anyone. So it's just really kind of understanding it. You know, like in the world now, you know, it seemed like the community is more accepted, and to an extent, it's almost like it's law. And you know, if I'm made to expound on it, I want to say it almost seems like there's more rights in that community than it is for someone that may be, you know, heterosexual. So I mean, how do you feel about this, Shay?
You know, when it comes to community-based opinions, you know, we all don't have one. In the sense of the sensitivity and the nature of, you know, what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We all have one from a political, we all have one from a spiritual, we all have one from just an opinion. Which all of them are required as an opinion, but some opinions, although they may not seem valid in some eyes, still count as an opinion. It's kind of awkward to get an understanding of a lot of situations. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a peculiar one, but it still it's kind of different. You know, I don't follow the LGBTQ, HQ, whatever. I don't know what they call themselves. I don't follow them like that. You know, I just don't. You know, to each his own. But this is a very kind of different one for me, because you have to also think in this aspect as being, you know, maybe a family member, maybe a friend, maybe a cousin, maybe a, you know, whatever. In this realm of possibilities that, you know, you face this kind of scenario in which, you know, a son or a daughter, a cousin, nephew, whatever the case may be, family member, friend, is transitioning from one thing, but still dating the same, I guess the same like manner, but it's like the opposite, if I'm making any kind of sense.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of hard to actually, I guess, dissect it in a sense. I can dissect it spiritually, but that's ain't what we're talking about. We're talking about a sense of understanding right now. And how do we understand? Do we consider that a heterosexual? Which to me it is, because I mean, these two individuals are still male and female. You know, I just think baffles me how they switch roles, in a sense. You know, maybe that's how I'm seeing it, because I see it from a role perspective more than a what do you identify as perspective. You know, if that makes sense.
Right. Right.
You know, I don't know. Maybe society can see it a little different. I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their own perspective on that. Mine a little different. You know, I respect anybody's perspective. Some may not make sense to me. Some may not. I may not agree with. Some I may agree with. You know, but it's kind of deep in a sense. You know what I mean? Because, you know, society may see it a little different from anybody else.
And then the thing that I guess that's kind of confusing about it, it's almost like it's uncomfortable to talk about it. And, you know, I'm a person, I'm not, you know, like I said, I'm not offending. Like I said, I've had, you know, like I said, family members and everything. So I've learned to accept that lifestyle young, but I don't accept it for myself. That's not the way I'm choosing to live my life. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool. You know, if someone chooses to, you know, identify themselves in that manner, I'm going to respect them. I'm going to treat them like a person as such. But, you know, I am going to make sure, you know, if that person happens to come into and I'm trying to make sure that I use my words where I'm not offending anyone, but I'll let them know, like, look, I'm a heterosexual male. I love the opposite sex. But the people that I've dealt with who actually are LGBTQ, they're cool. They're real cool people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I show them love, hug them, show them respect, love, but that's just not the way that I would choose to live my life. So the way that it has elevated and then certain circumstances happen, like I said, we've actually seen in media that everyone can see now. There is a couple. Like I said, we're not going to share names for the sake of legal ramifications or even having it where, we're placed to the point of where we're facing the council culture or whatever. But, we've seen someone who identifies as the opposite sex, a male that identifies as a female, and a female that identifies as a male, and they are a couple. So, it was just kind of like, we're trying to get understanding of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure it out, like, okay, what is this? I mean, I can't say that, they're homosexual or a lesbian or whatever you want to consider that couple. It seems like it's heterosexual. You're still having that interaction of people with two different body parts actually interacting. So, just for the sake of argument.
It get a little deep. It gets a little deep because, people feel this is a sensitive topic. I don't feel it's a sensitive topic. The reason why I don't feel it's a sensitive topic because, these conversations got to be talked about. A lot of people may not respect my opinion. That's fine, but don't let me deviate from the subject. As if my opinion don't be valid because you may feel a certain way. Because certain times in certain conversations, me being a hetero male, it can be offensive to me. And I have to accept the offense that comes with it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? We skate around the truth of some situations. Because we feel like, we're degrading a person who wants to transition from one gender to the next. This ain't the first time, in my belief, and I know for a fact this ain't the first time, that this is out there. You got let's say a male wants to be a female and a female wants to be a male, because it gets a little deeper than what we perceive. Now, I know that no one say, well, you don't want to offend nobody. It's a touchy subject. So some people going to get offended either way it goes. Being a heterosexual male, when you talk about certain subjects, or a heterosexual female, when you talk about certain things, you're going to get offended regardless. Because everyone has their opinion. Don't take a person's opinion and feel like, that you're degrading because of the situation, because that's a topic of trying to figure it out. Because that's just like, because they identify who they are, and you begin, because it carries a lot of weight. Because if you transition from this topic for even being how they identify heterosexual or homosexual, and they do a gender identify, is it really okay for a homosexual male transition to a female to play sports with a female or even get dressed in the locker room with females, vice versa? Would that be acceptable from a female transition to a male to actually go into a locker room full of men to get dressed? I mean, this topic, it transition open up a lot of questions that, some people would ask. Some people have thought about it. Some people still question it to this day. That's why when we go from understanding relationship, then it have to also evolve to extending outside of relationship, because you got a lot of things you got to understand about this. It just ain't about, who or what type of relationship they are, because they got to develop other relationships too. So I know we went to that one, but I want to ask your view. Do you believe, honestly, that it's okay for a male who's transitioning to a female to play sports, let's say wrestling, for instance, and they have to wrestle against a female? You think that's a distinct advantage, being that he was once a male? And still, I hate to put it like this, but he still got the DNA of one. Now he's transitioning to wrestle a female. Do you think that that's like kind of a disadvantage, kind of unfair? You know, what are your thoughts on that one, Shady?
Man, on one of the podcasts, the setup, shout out to Twala. There was a podcast that she actually hosted. It was a very heated discussion about that. And you know what? Actually, my thoughts on that, even if you're a male or female, you're not identifying as the opposite sex, especially when it comes to sports, I think that it should actually be sports just for that particular race of people. If you are a male identifying as a female, I don't believe that you should be participating against another female in a sports, because I mean, genetically, it's an unfair advantage. That's just my personal opinion. And once again, I don't want to be offensive to anyone. And if there's anyone in the LGBT community, if you want to join this live chat and comment your concerns or whatever, you feel like we're speaking out of line or anything disrespectfully, once again, we are not trying to single anyone out or offend anyone or attack anyone. It's strictly a conversation for understanding. But I do believe if you're identifying as the opposite sex, you still participate in sports for your original sex that you are, if that makes sense. It's only fair, because I mean, there is proof behind this, with the UFC fight, with the male who transitioned to a female fighting the female UFC and actually crushing a skull. Certain sports like track, football, like I say, wrestling, and any type of physical sports. I think that it should either be something established for the LGBT community where it can be equality in competition. I think equality should be all the way around. It shouldn't be a male who identifying as a female participating in female sports. It's not fair genetically. I mean, those are my thoughts, Shay. I don't think it's fair either way, or a man participating, a man who identifies as a female participating in female sports, and vice versa. I just don't think it works. It's not compatible. I just don't see that. And like I said, once again, this is my opinion. And once again, I'm not trying to offend anyone or attack anyone. This is my basic understanding. And to add to that, Shay, in the world now with, when you go out in public and, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. If there's anyone that's watching, please correct me if I'm wrong. They're trying to make bathrooms to where, if you identify as male or female, that you can actually share that bathroom. And that's something, that a lot of people are actually having, some concerns about. I can't say everybody having issues about it, but, I think they have separate bathrooms for a reason. So, those are just my thoughts about it.
It get a little deep. I keep identifying it because it gets a little deep, because this is a conversation. They're not going to get offended regardless. I mean, it is what it is, in my opinion. Because we are going to get offended at some point of anything, including myself. I get attacked a lot, and I'm a pastor, so that's what I believe. But it gets a little deep because of understanding, because a lot of people feel that when it comes to that type of situation, it's kind of hard. You're not saying that a person shouldn't have the same qualities, rights or whatever. That's not what's being talked about. We just want to, you got to understand a lot of things, how both parties feel. Now, dealing with the athlete, I do agree on one thing, because I know they may have transitioned to whatever they want to be identified as, cool. But you can't sit there and tell me that genetically make up, they still have male DNA. And that's kind of difficult dealing with you taking on a young woman who's not as strong or not as athletic. Because I remember New Jersey, at least some years ago, there was a girl, she was like a 3-time state champion, if I'm not mistaken. And she wrestled, the boy just spread out, just broke her arm or shoulder or something. But those are questions that you have to ask. Now, as far as the gender bathroom, that's kind of different too. And it's kind of hard because they get a little deeper in them conversations. You know what I mean? Because it just we all trying to make sense of comfortability. That's what we all trying to understand. And everybody wants the comfort level to understanding, which we all should pursue. But sometimes you got to get comfortable by having uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely.
You know, and, you know, like I say, because I had I'm going to be honest with you, I had a conversation with an individual. And they feel like a lot of conversations dealing with the community for as heterosexuals and homosexuals, the LGBT community, some people feel like, you know, for years certain things been pushed on us as well as certain things been pushed on them to accept. I think a lot of times as people, you got to come to a common ground. You know, you got to have people, you know, you have to understand the difference between a liberty and a freedom. And I think that some of us don't understand those situations. It's because we got to have an understanding for each other to understand where we head. You know what I mean? I'm sure a lot of us got family members, you know, and we also want to have a discussion because you speak out of love and understanding sometimes. Now, I may not agree with a lot of things, but I also got to love that person regardless of what they do and how they feel. Right. But also, you got to have a unique understanding for my feelings as well. Just can't bypass mine because you feel as if you feel like I'm still going along the program. I don't go along the program, right? And that's why I'm called Shake, because I shake quick on some stuff that I feel like, you know, I don't agree with. But at the same time, I got compassion. I do have understanding. You know, I accept it. That don't mean I got to deal with it at the same time, too, though. You know, I believe a lot of times that we have to come to the table sometimes. Just have a conversation and quit trying to use a motive, bring it to the table to serve certain things. You know, I got a question asked to me, because like I say, it get deeper. You know, I got a question asked to me about marriage. Do I believe? That's why I say when it comes to, you know, trying to be offensive, it gets deeper because we ain't been about it. What I believe, people, you know, come and talk to me crazy about. But because what I believe, you believe was right, that don't mean I think they believe it. But I accept you through the state that, you know, whatever it is that you love, whatever it is that you feel.
Right.
It gets a little deeper than that. That's why when people say, you know, you can't think, well, it's going to happen. But in order for that to happen, we got to get some understanding on some situations. You know, it gets real deep, man, because it gets deep. It gets deep, doctor. It gets real deep. It gets real deep. It gets real deep to the point where you ask yourself a question. It's society, you know, about society and things and views and, you know, what's this and what's that. I mean, are we willing to actually have a dialogue? Are we willing to actually have understanding? But at the same time, you know, can learn. Because we're going to have to adapt either way it goes. You know, we're going to have to adapt either way it goes. We're going to have to understand either way it goes. You know, I may not agree with a lot of things. That person may not agree with a lot of things with me, but if we can come to mutual understanding, I think, you know, it'll come out better. You know what I mean?
All right, man. Well, like I say, this conversation can go a little bit deep, but like I say, we're here to talk about a few topics with y'all today, and we'll get into our last topic of the day. And actually, like I said, me and Shake actually talked about this offline. But once again, like I said, if anyone want to chime in on the discussion, please, we can see your comments. Please fact check us or whatever. Like I said, our goal is to just conversate. We being who we are. What you see is what you get. Shake and Shady. We had those names for a reason, but like I said, it's more of a personal thing. So, you know, we got our homeboy Hippie on the phone. He's one of my closest friends. He's like a brother to me. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, Hippie, man, where do you think we got those names Shady and Shake from? And you already know about it. So, what we want to get into, so for our third and final topic of the day, we want to talk about the incarceration rates. So this is what me and Shake actually discussed offline. And Shake, I guess I'm going to go ahead and let you lead it off this conversation. We talked about the incarceration rates of people who are from single-parent households, those being children that lived in single mothers, having single mothers and single fathers, and then children that came from a full household, having both their mother and father. You want to kick that off, Shake?
Well, when it comes to that, that's another sense that go back to what I say. It's another sensitive subject.
Okay.
You know, because now we have to, you know, people feel like you're pointing a finger. You know, it's hard being a single mother. It's hard when you got 3 kids, you trying your best to raise them and do the best you can, be the best provider you can. Because I had songs to a lot of moms. You know, we all come from, some of us come from that environment. You know, so I had, you know, I was blessed to, you know, still be raised by a single mom, but still raised by a father at the same time. You know, so I got the blessings of both worlds. But the incarceration rate, I believe, is high for a single mom, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think it's up to almost like 73, 74% of incarceration rate from men who come from a single parent, single mother home versus the incarceration rate coming from a single father home, which I believe now is around maybe 15%. You know, I believe the presence of a man not being around sometimes hinder children, whether they male or female. You know, that presence is not felt. Now, this is why I get on men about sometimes, because men, we have to also understand there's a difference in having a phone conversation versus having an in-house conversation. We can attack these women and say what we want about these moms, and they neglecting, feel like they're neglecting of the child, and we can say all these things, but we also play a part in our incarceration rate dealing with that single mom. There's a difference when you have an in-house voice, and then sometimes you have a phone voice. You know, it's a difference when you have a cross-the-town conversation versus have an in-face conversation. There's a difference when you got your hands in them versus in them and on them versus having your hands saying that you just passing them some money just to keep them cool, just to keep them satisfied. But that incarceration rate is high. I hate to put it like this, more of the mothers than it is the fathers. So I'm not attacking the mothers, you know, because it's a lot of reasons why the father's not there. That's another topic for another discussion. But we're just trying to want to know why is their incarceration rate so high? Well, because of the lack of father in the home. Lack of presence of a male figure. When that male figure has to have their hands on both father and daughter. You know, when a dad speaks, it got more power than when a mother will. I'm not saying moms don't, you know, got no, you know, no toughness in them, but it's a little different when you hear it from the father.
All right, so for those that are watching, once again, we love for you to chime in on the conversation. We can see your comments here. You know, if you like to speak on it right now, we're talking about the incarceration rates compared to single parent households and households that have both parents. And we're actually separating the single parent households from single males and single female households. And we're talking about the statistics. So once again, like I said, me and Shake actually talked about this offline, and we actually have percentages. So how do y'all feel about how a child is being raised in a single parent household in different scenarios and situations? You know, this generation of children, in my opinion, are uniquely different. Like, I think that with us, what are we? We not baby. Okay, it's the baby boom. I forgot what we're Generation X. We're Generation X.
I believe we are.
Okay, so this new, is it Gen Z now? I think it's Gen Z, or it may be something else now.
Gen Z, yeah.
All right.
They're being raised by the social, I think they call them the social media age, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I believe they're called the social media age, if I'm not mistaken. Because reason why they believe that right there, now I could be wrong, somebody please correct me.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I thank God for that correction, but they feel that this is the age in which they're being raised by social media.
Oh, wow. So, okay. Now, once again, getting back to the subject at hand about the incarceration rates, I'm looking at fatherless single mother home statistics. It says mothers with children under 18 years old. There's an 84.1% incarceration rate with children at 18 living in a home with a single mother. Now, for single fathers, it's a 15.9%. So the incarceration rates are higher for children who live in a single mother household compared to living in a single father's household. So, like Shake said, the proof's in the pudding. We're looking at it right here. I mean, if you're raised by a single father, there's a chance that child is going to be raised to a different degree of how they conduct themselves in society. Am I correct, Shake?
That is correct.
Okay, so now I'm going to actually try to get the information on the incarceration rates?
Because you have to really, I mean, first of all, let's understand something. When there's a mother and she has 2 or 3 children, and she's the only sole provider inside that home. She's inside that home, and she's the sole provider. Some mothers may work 6 to 8 to 12 hours. When they have a tendency to come home, they tired, they do the best they can, they just want to relax, they have a glass of wine, and rest up and get themselves together. You know, which is understandable. And sometimes when they have the energy, or when they have the time, they do their best to give time to their kids, get better understanding. That's why a lot of females have a tendency now to put their kids in sports, getting something else to do outside of chasing the streets, which I applaud these ladies for it. I really do. It's because sometimes when you can't find a man in there, you can find somebody who can discipline. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a coach. Because 9 times out of 10, that's the next father figure for those young men who don't have father figures in the home. Mm-hmm. So I applaud these women in there. I really do applaud those women for finding other ways to get their children around males. I'm quite sure they have brothers, uncles, and cousins, but you know, a lot of those sometimes have their own lives. So to say, they'll get to their nieces and nephews or their cousins, you know, whenever time permits or whenever they can. But I applaud women for thinking, okay, since I don't have, let me put them around some young men, be around some men that can be much of an influence with it, because all of us had a coach in our lives who was very influential in mine. You know, I had a couple of them. Mike Green, head coach at Mansfield High, Rob Meach's Winston, who coached me. One of those guys, you know, inspired me as a young man to, you know, go hard. So you can't, I'm not knocking a woman, I don't. But I understand certain things, because when a woman's not around, especially us men, we tend to lean to the streets or lean to other things to get ourselves into situations that we should not be. Not saying that mother ain't doing a great job, but sometimes the lack of, sometimes make a child mind one.
Okay, so we have a question from Hippie. He says, what about rich parents? You see a lot of rich kids getting arrested, which is true. I think that children that come from more privileged homes financially, I think they be out. They feel like they have something to prove. I mean, what you think, Shay?
Let me get to my opinion. Most rich kids, or kids who are well off, I should say, they have this, I believe in my opinion, you know, anybody correct me again, I ain't got a problem with it. They had this stigma of wanting to fit in with those who come from an environment that shows toughness, that shows survival, and show that they can do the same thing you can. Because I know a lot of guys growing up, you know, who come from 2-parent households, trying to run with some guys that was, you know, about their life or about that action, you know what I'm saying, trying to prove stuff, you know, smoking weed versus us, you know, come from their environment where we grew up around these cats. You know, we ain't got to do all that because, you know, we know what it is. We know the environment that we stay in. When y'all go back to where y'all come from, you know, we still got to live this here. You know what I'm saying? We got to live, listen to gunshots, listen to somebody getting robbed, listen to somebody getting shot at, listen to somebody getting stabbed. While you go back home and you trying to want to fit in. I think that's the reason why I believe a lot of them do, because they just want to fit in and be hip or, you know, gangster southern, when you know their life ain't what it is, because you find some kids going to rob and steal something with you can, your mom and dad perhaps, not saying they will, but perhaps can give it to you better than a child who come out the, you know, from an environment where it's tough, where things aren't as given unto them as it is to you.
All right. So you heard it here first, y'all. Like I say, man, we appreciate everyone that has tuned in to the Shady and Shake Hour every Monday. You know, we may change the time. We may make it a later show that comes on later in the night. We kind of up in discussion for that, so we may come a little bit later in the day for those that may, you know, get off work, you know, right before you go to bed, get this good word from the good Pastor Shake and Shady Will. You know, like I said, we really appreciate y'all. Now, we talk about all types of stuff, so it ain't, when y'all get on here, we don't want y'all thinking y'all just watching, and we're going to be talking about, we're going to talk about everything. We just talking based on what we feel about it. I mean, you got something you want to say, Shake, before we close this thing out, son?
Yeah, I just want to say, you know, everyone, Mr. Starks, a Monday is a great start to your week. Wake up with a purpose, wake up with a smile. Enjoy each and every day. Stay in your prayer card, stay in your Bible. Now, if you don't choose to believe what you believe, that's fine. But also believe that God walks with you and be with you at all times. I want y'all to be blessed. Walk with your head high, your chin and your chest out.
All right, man. Hey, it's been the Shady and Shake Hour. And man, we'll check y'all next week. Holla!